Hey YouTube, welcome back to Tinker with Tools. When I released last week's video about the Metabo HPT kit that fits in and compares very well with the Subcompact kit from Flex, I received several comments wondering when I was going to review the newest Subcompact kit from Ridgid. Well, little did I know I was actually going to receive it for Father's Day, so here we are. We're going to go ahead and test that kit and try and answer which one of these kits is the best one for you. So let's get into that on Tinker with Tools. Alright, so it seems like it's been a few years now since Ridgid came out with their subcompact lineup, and I really do feel that in Ridgid's case, the subcompact lineup was their answer to 12-volt tools. Ridgid previously had a 12-volt lineup, and although I know that certain people did enjoy different tools on it, did like certain things about it, overall it was not the most successful 12-volt lineup. The tools were, I believe, largely brush, not brushless. They never got updated beyond that. And so you started to see the writing on the wall when those tools just never got replaced. Now, they came out with the subcompact tools. Now, the size difference when it compares to a 12-volt tool is not that much bigger, if really at all, than some of those older 12-volt tools. But what you're getting performance-wise is a significant improvement. These tools are actually rated higher than a lot of different 12-volt lineups, and so you do have the benefit of having smaller, more compact tools, but being able to do it on an 18-volt, or in some cases with Flex, a 24-volt platform. These smaller tools really are the alternative, in my opinion, to 12-volt tools. Now, with Ridgid's subcompact lineup, previously I have actually owned their first generation subcompact drill driver. And I was not super high on this Ridgid drill. It's fine, it operates well, but compared to what I was comparing in that video, it did definitely get outclassed by other better tools. Now, the drill itself does lack on power compared to these other kits. Is that going to matter? Is it going to make a difference? We'll see. Now, the impact driver, on the other hand, is not down on specs to these other tools. In fact, compared to these other tools, it is actually up on specs in both cases. This is actually a really feature-rich impact driver when it comes to what it is. They're touting 1,850 inch-pounds of torque. So when you're talking about where this compares impact driver-wise, power or torque-wise, it should be off the charts. Like many more premium impact drivers, this actually does have 3 different speed modes and then a metal fastener assist mode that is going to prevent you from stripping out metal fasteners when driving them. So when you're talking about this impact driver, on paper, this stands out as the clear winner. Now, it's something else that Ridgid has, and I cannot believe that on a Ridgid impact driver, I'm labeling this a plus. It does have a quick insert collet. Neither of the other kits have that. Although I've never been a huge fan of Ridgid's quick insert collet, it actually is nice to have it on these tools when the other ones are clearly lacking that feature that should just be standard on impact drivers, in my opinion. On paper, the Ridgid has a lot going for it. In the impact driver, the drill, not quite as much. But how is that going to play out in testing? Let's go ahead and do some testing between these tools, and we'll go ahead and see if this kit is going to be the one for you, or if you're better sticking off with one of the 2 that we've already reviewed. All right, so there you have your performance testing. And I'm going to go ahead and give you my impressions of how it went. I will have not seen the times. I can tell you that everything I'm going to be going off of is based on feel and how I felt the tools performed. Now, let's go ahead and start with the impact driver. If I had to make a guess, and I'm a little bit perhaps influenced because of the results of the last one, when Metabo HPT's impact driver clearly beat the Flex impact driver in almost every test, even though on paper it's down on power and it's just not the performance beast on paper that you'd expect it to be, but it won. When I started using this Ridgid one, I expected the Ridgid impact driver to perform well. I expected it to be rather nice, and honestly, it's a little bit slow. That doesn't mean it's not able to drive the fasteners. It does seem to have decent power, but especially when you move up to some of those bigger fasteners, if you're intending to do that with this impact driver, it is not going to be the one for that. Now, on smaller fasteners, I think you're going to be fine, and I think a lot of people are going to be picking this up to use with smaller fasteners. But we do those tests to be able to hopefully illustrate power and speed differences that exist in these tools when they are pushed. The biggest thing I'm going to take away from this Ridgid is there's a fair amount of vibration that comes through the tool when driving those bigger fasteners compared to the other two brands, and especially the Metabo HPT. The Metabo HPT, when retesting it tonight, really shined with how smooth it performs and just how well it did there. The Ridgid did have a lot of vibration, and so you'll have seen the performance times, you'll know where it shakes out. But when it comes to which impact driver was the nicest to use, it definitely was the Metabo HPT. Now, does that mean that this Ridgid is a bad impact driver? No. I still think there's a couple of things I really like. The quick insert collet on it, the speed modes, the truly compact size. This is a truly different size impact, and one of the few that when they say that they have a subcompact impact driver, it actually feels properly small. Now, when it comes to the drill driver, I do think this is an improvement in the drill driver category over this first generation. Even if you take away the power gains that this one claims to have, I do think the fit and finish of this tool is nicer. They've adopted more of the design language of their larger tools and put it down into the smaller size versus this one that's got kind of more of the rubber overmolding of some of their older tools on there. This is obviously not a brand new tool. It's nice to see them kind of going consistent through there and getting that. The fit and finish of some of these materials does seem quite nice, but at the end of the day, even though this looks like a vastly improved chuck, it still is mostly plastic. But overall, this is still not going to be one of my preferred drill drivers to use. I think the biggest reason why is, go ahead and listen. We're in speed 2. There is a slow ramp up to full speed. It exists in the impact driver as well. This is in speed 3 right now. And when you compare that to the Metabo HPT, for example, I hope this translates on camera. That thing is full speed right out of the gate. I absolutely love how quickly it gets on the power and how quickly it stops. This just feels a little bit slow to do both. All right, so now let's get down to my recommendation time. We've tested all of these kits. Which one of these is going to get the Tinker with Tools stamp of approval? Well, that's where it gets a little bit complicated. I think overall, all 3 of these kits, if you are on the brand that these kits are on, so if you're on Metabo HPT, if you're on Flex, or if you're on Ridgid, every single one of these kits is a solid option for you to get a smaller, lightweight tool that still has enough features and power and speed to get the job done. And so in that, I think we're winners if you're on one of these brands. Now, if it comes down to it, if you want to know which one of the kits is the nicest to get, I think there's some close finishes on some of these tools. For example, the Flex drill driver is, in my opinion, the most powerful drill driver. It's not the fastest drilling, that goes to the Metabo HPT, but it is the most powerful. I think the Metabo HPT kit is going to be the nicest to use in terms of how the tools feel when you're using them. For example, I talked about the impact driver, how it just transfers less vibration or it beats you up less when you're using it. That is important, and it's a much smoother impact driver than either of the other two. The drill driver is very nice to use, although when it came to the power, it didn't seem that much more powerful than the Ridgid. It seemed more on par with it, even though it's not as fast. The instantaneous speed right out of the gate, but still having a good trigger that I can modulate a little bit, that is important to me. And so I think that's where, if I were to pick the order in which I'd recommend these, I'd probably go Metabo HPT, then probably the Flex, and then probably the Ridgid last. But any of these three kits are pretty nice. That's just the order I might recommend you look if you're wanting to get only one of these three. We really do benefit from being in a time when a lot of great tools are on the market and there's a lot of great choices there. All right, so if you like the video, go ahead and hit that like button. If you are one of those that had questions about which kits you should get and you don't feel like I answered them, go ahead and put it in the comments down below, and I'll try and get those answered for you. And then if you haven't already, please consider subscribing. And if you have someone that you think would benefit from this information, please consider sharing it with them. Until next time, this has been Tinker with Tools.